Hey guys, and welcome back to another Management 4 tutorial. In today's video, I'm showing you how to hide in a locker like you can see here. So we have all these different lockers. I've got some against the wall, and all of them facing different directions, just to show you that with this one blueprint, we can hide in each of these individual lockers facing different directions. So we're going to press a button to get in, we'll hide in it, the door will open, and this will also hide us from an AI, so the AI won't be able to see us. So let me hit play, and I'll show you what it's going to look like now. So we can get in, I'll go in first person, I'll walk over here, I'll press H, whatever button you want, door opened, we got in, door closed, and we can move our camera around in here like so, and we can get back out again like that. And this works in all of these that are along this wall like so, and get in and out like that. And you can have them closer, you just need to lower the size of the box collision, which is very easy, and I'll show you that later. And then this also works with whichever direction they're facing. So you saw it facing the other direction, we've got this one, we've got this direction. Again, we can see out of it, so we can see the other locker, which will also show that this works here as well. So this is what we're going to be making today. Very simple, one blueprint, that's all it is, and we can have as many lockers as we like. So let me delete this code and I'll show you how I've done this. The first step you're going to want to take is you're going to want to import your locker static mesh. Now you can use any mesh you like. This is just a very quick and simple one which I made in Blender earlier, as I couldn't find any online which worked, because what we also need is to make sure that the door rotates properly. So again, this is a very simple one, which I made in about 5 minutes. But what you want to make sure is when you import it, you have the locker and the door as two separate meshes, as you can see here. And when we have the door, we have it so it will rotate on the side like that. So you can see the axis point is on the side, you can rotate it like you would a door. And you only need to do that if you want to be able to open the door. So just keep that in mind when you do that. And of course, you can use the one which I made as well. I'll leave a link in the description down below to where you can download it from. So once you've done that, we're going to create our blueprint actor. So we're going to right click, get a blueprint class, and get an actor. And I'm going to name this one locker hide BP like so, and I'm going to open that up straight away. In here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to minimize it a little like that so I can still see it. I'm going to select both of my static meshes, so the locker and locker door, go back into the blueprint, add component, and add static mesh multiple assets, and now we have both of these in here like so. I'm just going to drag and drop that onto there to unparent it like that. After this, I'm going to want to move it. So the way I've actually modeled this is facing the wrong direction. So if you're using a different model, you don't have to do this, and you don't even have to anyway. I just prefer to do it this way so that it's then in line with other stuff. So it makes the calculations later on easier. Because if we just add a component of a camera in here, you can see that that is the forward facing direction. So I want to have it like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to select both the locker and locker door and rotate it on the Z by -90. Now they're facing forwards like so. Then I'm going to select the locker door and I'm going to move it into position. Now a good position I found with this model earlier was 29.27 on the X, 30 on the Y, and 0 on the Z. So actually I might just round it up to 30 on the X as well. So this is what we've got here. So now the door is in position, and you can just move it like this, and again get it perfect for the values that you want for your locker. And what we're going to do next is we're going to compile, deselect that, I'm going to add another component, and this one is going to be a box collision, like so. And I'm just going to scale this up as well. So I'm going to move it over so it's just in front of the locker as well, and I'm going to scale it up. So I'm going to, again, be using the values which I found to be quite good earlier. That was 4 on the X, 3.75 on the Y, and about 3.5 or 3.5 on the Z. Again, customize these values to get them perfect for you, and the reason I'm moving it out in front as well is so that you can only enter the locker if you're in front of it. So you may want to lower the Y a little bit like so. So you have to be basically directly in front of the locker in order to be able to open it. And that is how you do that there. And I think that looks quite good for me. Next, I'm going to deselect that again, add another component, and this one is just going to be a camera. I'm going to put that in there like so, and again move this into the position that we want. So a good way to find that is to just minimize this slightly like so you can still see it. And then we're going to drag and drop a locker into our level like so, and place it where we want. So you can see we have a locker there. In the bottom right, we have a preview of this camera. So if we move the camera, this moves that camera preview as well, so we can see what we're going to see when we're in the locker. So I'm going to be using the values I found earlier, and I found them by doing this, so just moving it with that preview there. So the values which I got were -10 on the X, so move it back a little bit, 0 on the Y, and 78 on the Z. So just move it back and up a little bit like so. So now if we compile, we can check this again, and that's the preview we're going to get there when we're inside the locker. We're going to make this bigger again like so. And that is the viewport all set up, so now we can start moving on to the functionality of it. And so the first step of that is to set up some variables. So I'm going to deselect this, and we're going to set up the door variables first. If we select our locker door, you can see that this is going to be the angle that we want it to be in when it is closed. So we're going to have the closed angle, and that's going to be -90, as that's what it is on the Z, because we rotate it on the Z like so. So when it's closed, it's -90. So let's hit a plus variable in the bottom left down here. Name this close angle like so. I'm going to change it from a boolean to a float. Compile, and we can change the default value to -90 or whatever it is for you. Again, it's just this value here as of right now. Then we're going to hit another plus variable again. Call this one open angle, and then we're going to open up our door to where we want it to be. So again, hit E and rotate it on the Z, and I want it to be about here. So you can see that I moved it out by 120. However, because it started on -90, the value is actually 30. So it's going to open 120 units to the unit of 30 on the Z. So I will set the closed to be -90 and the open to be 30. But again, customize these to be perfect for you. After this, we're going to go to the event graph like so. And in here, we want to delete these 3 events here. What we're going to do next is we're going to create an action mapping. So to do that, we're going to go to Edit, Project Settings. Once it loads, we should get Input down here. Now, I already have a few action mappings here. They're just from previous tutorials. But if you don't have these, don't worry. I'm going to hit the plus action mapping here, name it whatever we like. So I'm going to name it either hide, interact, anything like that. As you can see, I already have them, so I'll just get rid of that. So I have hide and I have interact. You can choose whichever one. I'm going to set the hide key to H, interact to E. Again, you can set these values to be whichever key value you'd like. So this is the button the player is going to press in order to hide and unhide. It's going to be H, E, left mouse button, F, anything you want. And the benefit of action mappings, we can set up multiple keys, we can set up keys for different consoles, and we can also set up key bindings. So once you've set that up, we're going to close it. Back in the event graph here, we're going to right click and search the action mapping we just made. So I named mine hide. So we've got action event hide there. Underneath this, we're going to right click on our box collision up in the top left, add event, add on component begin overlap, right click on it again, add event, add on component end overlap. We get those like that. For the other actor of both of these, we're going to cast to our character, which for me is the third person character. We're going to do that and put that into the other actors of both of these, like so. Off of this top one, so begin overlap, as third person character, I'm going to right click, promote to variable, and just call this character reference like that, so we can use this later on. Then underneath this, so in between the two, we're going to right click, get player controller. Out of this, we're going to come out the return value and enable input. That's not going in the target, however, that's going in the player controller. We're going to plug that into the character reference there. And then we're going to right click and get a disable input, player controller, going to get player controller, target itself, plug it into the bottom cast there. So this is what we should have so far. When we enter the box collision, we're going to enable the player's input, and when we leave the box collision, we're going to disable it. So this means when we are close enough to it, we can hide. When we're not close enough, we won't be able to hide in the locker. So I'm going to hold down G and left click to get a gate, which again is just solidifying this, so we can only do it when we're close enough. Enter will be the pressed of our hide action mapping there. Open is enable input, and close is disable input. And we're going to make sure we leave start close ticked. Then what we're going to do now is we're going to create a function, and this function is going to be to hide and unhide the player or get in and out of the locker. So we're going to hit the plus functions here over on the left, hit plus function. I'm going to name this one toggle hide, like so. Out of this, I'm going to hold down B, left click to get a branch, plugging that into there like that. Then we're going to hit the plus variable again to make a new one. I'm going to call this is hiding, question mark. I'm going to change it to be a boolean, so it's a true or false value. I'm going to plug that into the condition there. So what we do is when we press H, it's going to see if we're already hiding. If we are hiding, we want to stop. If we're not hiding, we want to start hiding. So off of true, we're going to set is hiding to be false. And off of false, we're going to set is hiding to be true. So this is how we are toggling it here, like so. What we want to do now is get our character reference there. So drag and drop, get character reference, putting it in between these two. Sorry, so we should tick is hiding there as well. I realized I didn't do that. We need to tick the set is hiding. So now what we're going to do is off of false, so when we start hiding, we're going to come out of the character reference, and we're going to set actor hidden in game, plugging that in there like so. We're going to tick new hidden. We're going to have new hidden as ticked, so we are hiding the player. and this is what is stopping the player from being seen by the AI and also by us. So we're going to come out the character reference again, and we're going to set actor enable collision, and we're going to leave that unticked, so we're going to be hiding the player and disabling their collision, meaning that if the AI does run past a locker, they're not going to be able to collide with the player, which is invisible. So that will work perfectly like so. I'm just going to move this down a little bit to give us some more space. After this, I'm going to right click and get player controller. Out of the return value of this, I'm going to set view target with blend, plugging that into the set actor enable collision there. The target is get player controller, and the new view target is going to be get a reference to self. So what this is doing is it's going to be moving the player's camera from their normal camera on the character itself to our camera we have in this locker. So we're going to be changing cameras from the player's camera to the camera we placed in the locker here. So that will work perfectly, like so. So this is how we're going to hide the player. Now we want to unhide when we press H again. So what we can do is we can select set actor hidden in game, set actor enable collision, and set view target. Control C, Control V to duplicate it up here. As it's essentially the same code, we're just going to basically do the opposite of it. So we're going to plug those in there. The target for the set actor hidden in game is character reference, same for enable collision. And now the target for the set view target is also get player controller. And also the new view target now is the character reference again. So now we're changing the player's camera back to their normal camera in the character instead of the one in the locker. And like I said, we're doing the opposite. So we're going to untick new hidden for set actor hidden in game and tick new actor enable collision on this top one here. So this is going to be hiding the player and changing the camera. This is unhiding the player and changing the camera back to their normal one. What we should also do is set the blend time. So at the moment it's just going to snap between the cameras. We want to smoothly blend it. So to do that, we're going to change the blend time. I find good values for this to be 0.6. They're the ones which I typically use for these kind of things, so it's what I'm going to be using as well, and it's what I had in the start of the video. So if you like that, put this, but obviously you can change it to be whatever you like, customize it, mess about with it, see what you like the most. Then we're going to compile, save, and that's how we hide and unhide the player. So what we can do is off the event graph, we're going to drag and drop toggle hide, put down to the exit of the gate there. Now if we compile and save, this should work for just simply getting in and out of the locker. We won't be able to move the camera just yet, or have the door opening, but this should be the basic part done. So if we minimize, we can see we still have that locker in here. We hit play, go first person, walk up to it. If I hit H, I'm going to get in, hit H. We should get back out, except we don't. So let's have a look at why that happens now. But as you saw, we got in smoothly, and it worked perfectly like so. The camera changed, and the player was hidden. So let's go back into our blueprint here and see why that happened. Actually, I do know why. It's because we haven't finished this part yet, actually. Because what happens is we disable the collision, meaning this gate closes, and we disable the input because we are leaving the box collision. So later on, we do re-enable that. However, I forgot that's just something I do later. So this isn't actually done yet. But if we did have that, this would work going in and out. So what we're going to do now is, because we know that does work, and we know why that didn't finish working yet, it's just because we haven't finished the code. So what we'll do now is we're going to actually open and close the door. So I'm going to remove this toggle hide there, as we want to put something in front of it first. So we're going to, just underneath here in some space, we're going to right click and add a timeline, like so. I'm going to call this one open, close, door, T for timeline, like so. I'm going to double click this to open it up, and I'm going to set the length to be 1 second, as I want it to take 1 second for the door to open and close again. You can set this to be whatever you like. Next, we're going to add a float track there, and I'll just name this one door track, like that. I'm going to right click, add key to curve float, and make sure you right click in the timeline. I'm going to have the time as 0, value is 0, so it's the very start. I'm going to right click, add another key with time of 0.5 and a value of 1. So the door is open halfway through this timeline. Right click, add key, time 1, so at the end, value of 0. So what's going to happen is when we start the timeline, the door is going to be closed, the door will open, and the door will close again. As we're getting in, we want to open the door, get in, and close the door. So that will work perfectly, and that works for getting in and out. So we compile, close that timeline like so. We'll also close toggle hide, as we know that works. Now we're going to right click and get a lerp. We're just going to get a normal lerp under float. With the alpha as that door track float we have there, as that is going to get the values between A and B. A and B want to be our open and close angles. So we're going to start at close, so put that into A, and B will be open. Now to actually open the door, we want to drag and drop a reference to our locker door there. So get locker door. Out of this, we're going to set relative rotation. Plugging that into the update of the timeline so it does it every single time the timeline updates or moves the frame. We'll right click new rotation, split structure pin, and plug the Z into the return value there, as we only want to be rotating the door on the Z value. And that is that done. That's going to open and close our door. So what we can do is we can select this, right click on it, and collapse nodes. This isn't necessary, but it just looks a lot nicer and keeps it nice and organized. I'm just going to name this one open door. Then we're going to hit a plus input there, new parameter. I'm going to name this one in. I'm going to change this to be an executable. Now we could add an out, but it's not necessary to. So what I'm going to do is move this up here. Out of the exit of the gate, I'm going to hold down S, left click to get a sequence, plugging that in there, and then 1 is going to go into this open door. So the reason we're doing this is because we don't want to do this on the other part of code, because this has a delay in it, which is the timeline. We want these to fire off separately, so it does it at the same time. So if we double click this again, we can open it up. Now we can just connect this input, so our in, into the play from start of the timeline there. And we don't need an output again, but you can add one if you want. We compile, go back to our normal event graph. Now you can see this is going to work, so the door will open and close. So let's test that out to see if we need to change the value. So we hit play, we walk over, press H, it open and close perfectly like so. So no, we didn't need to change the value. I think it just works either way. So that's perfect. So the door opens and closes like so. And again, you can change the time if you'd like. So now let's add the player to get back in again. We go back here into our blueprint. What we can do is off of then 0, we can again toggle hide like so. Now we're going to hold down D, left click to get a delay. I'm going to place it just a little bit over here, as later on we're going to add something else in here. The delay I'll leave as 0.2. Out completed, I'm going to come all the way back to the start. We have enable input there. I'll just double click these nodes to get reroute nodes like so. And this will work perfectly now. Let me just do this as well. And this isn't necessary, I just like to keep it nice and neat and organized. And so now this should work so the player can get in and out. The reason we need to do this again is because when we disable the collision, we need to just make sure that we re-enable the input and go back into the gate again. So we compile, minimize, let's see if this part works. We go up to it, press H, the door opened, it closed, we got in, press H, and get in and out again. So this works perfectly. So what I might do is increase the time that it takes for the camera to go in. As you see, we're going in quite fast. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change that. So we go back into the blueprint, double click, toggle hide, and we can just increase this blend time here. So what I'll do is I might just up it to 0.8. So it takes 1 second for the door to open and close. So I'm going to set this to be 0.8 to get in and out. Compile, and let's see what this one looks like. And again, it's just up to you to change the values and get it perfect for what you want. So I think that's a lot better. So we kind of open and close with the door like so. And of course you can also just make it so the door takes longer to open. But I like this a lot better now. So I think that works great. So now the final thing to do is set up so we can move the camera while we're in there. So the basic functionality we've got set up working perfectly. Now I'm just going to make it so we can actually move the camera. So setting up the movement of the camera is very simple as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select this, hit C to comment it first of all. I'm just going to name this one get in and out of locker, like that. Just so we know what it does easily, like so. And underneath this, I'm going to scroll down to get some empty space. I'm just going to right click, and I'm going to get the look up input axes there. So the axes event input look up. Then I'm going to right click and get the turn as well. So axes events turn. I'll do the lookup first. So we're going to hold down B, left click to get a branch. The condition of is hiding. What we're going to do is we're going to get the character reference again. Out of this, we're going to add controller pitch input. As looking up is on the pitch. We'll plug that into the false there with the value as the axes value there. So what we're going to do is essentially if we walk into the box collision, we're still going to be moving the camera like we normally should for the player. Unless we get into the locker, then it will change. But otherwise, it's going to stay normal. So now to change it, what we're going to do is we're going to hit the plus variable again. This one I'm going to name pitch. I'm going to change it to be a float. And we can also make the yaw as well for later on. So what we're going to do is over here, we're going to drag and drop the pitch, get pitch. I'm going to get a float plus a float, and we're going to be adding the axes value to it. Let me just double click this again to get some reroute nodes to keep it nice and organized. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the pitch to the axes value. So this is just going to calculate the correct pitch for us for when we want to move. So then out of this, we're going to get a clamp with a clamp of float, and that goes into the value. And this is because we want to keep the pitch between certain angles. So you saw at the start, I couldn't move too far left or right or up or down. Obviously pitch is up and down, so that's what we're doing right now. And so that's just because we don't want the player to be able to do a full 360 in there or break the camera or anything like that. As it's a locker, you can't normally do that. It's quite cramped space in there. Obviously if you do, then you can just put it as 0 and 360, so they spin all the way around and look all the way up and whatever you like. But I don't want to do that, so I'm going to change this. So I'm going to set the minimum value as -40 and the maximum as 20. Now again, I did the same method to get these values, so these are just ones which I found to be nice. But what we can do to get them is again minimize it, select the locker, go to the viewport, and just move the camera between these values. So we're going to move on the pitch first, which is the Y, so up and down. So I want it to be 20, which is all the way up, which is there. So 30 is a bit too high for me, so I'm going to have it a maximum of 20, and a minimum, so all the way down, I want to be -40, so they can look all the way down there. I want it as 30, or any other value, but again, move it here and get the perfect values for you. So I want it to be -40 and 20. Again, get them ones which you want. Out of the return value of this, we're going to set the pitch, plugging that into the true of the branch there. What I might do is just move this down a bit like that. So what's going to happen now is we're going to be moving the pitch between these values that we want and setting it so that whenever we move the mouse, we're moving the pitch. So we're basically creating this add controller input here, but we're just making it ourselves because we're not actually adding controller input, which will be moving the camera. So we just have to simulate it like this. One other thing we can do is out of pitch, I'm going to get a multiply, so a float multiplied by a float. I'm going to multiply it by -1, and that's just because otherwise, if we don't do that, then the pitch is going to be inverted, which obviously we don't want. I mean, you might do, so then you don't need to have that, but I don't really want that. And we'll come back to this later on, but now let's set up the yaw. So we've done the pitch, up and down, now let's do the yaw, left and right. So what we can do is we can basically copy and paste this again and just change certain values. So we'll select the is hiding, the branch, all of this stuff, copy, so Control C, Control V to paste, put it back down here like so. Then we'll plug the axes value in there and back in there where they should be, target into the character reference like so. Again, I'm just going to reroute these to keep them organized. Then what we can do is we can just drag and drop our yaw variable onto the pitch there to change it. So now we're getting the yaw added to that. We'll do the same here, so we set the yaw, and we don't need the multiplication there as this one isn't inverted. And then we can change the clamp values as well. So ones which I found to be quite good were -60 and 60. And again, customize this to get it perfect for you. We'll do the same method, exactly the same. So we select the camera, change it on the yaw, which is the Z, between these. So I want 60 to be there, and -60, which is there. So these are values which I want. Again, pick the ones which are best for you. I want -60 and 60. So now we want to actually do something with these values. So we set the pitch and the yaw. Now I want to do something with it. So that's very simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and make rotator, as we want to rotate the camera. The yaw, which is Z, will go into the yaw there. The Y, which is pitch, will go into there. So now we're setting the pitch and yaw into a rotator. And then we're going to actually rotate the camera. So we're going to get the camera there. Out of this, we're going to set relative rotation, just like we did with the door, with the new rotation as this make rotator return value there. And now we want to loop this, so we're always moving. So we're always moving the camera when we're in the locker. So we're going to right click, add a custom event, and we're going to name this one move camera. After this, we're going to hold down B, left click to get a branch with the condition of is hiding. And that's because we only want to be moving the camera if we're hiding. So this is what is going to continue or break the loop. True, we'll go into the set relative rotation. So when we stop hiding, the loop will break, which is what we want. After the rotation, we're going to hold down D, left click to get a delay with the duration as 0.001. So it's very small, so we don't notice it. After completed, we're going to move camera. So call function, move camera, like so, which is whatever you name as custom event. So this is essentially simulating event tick. However, it's more efficient because it's only firing off when we need it to. So this should work perfectly. So I can select all this, hit C to comment it again, and I'll name this one move camera. So again, we're just basically simulating this add controller input for both the pitch and the yaw to get it perfect for what we want, and we're moving the camera according to those values. Now we need to call this as well when we actually get into the locker. So let's go back up here. You see we left some space between toggle hide and the delay. So we're going to come out of toggle hide and call function move camera. Now you can put that in there, and this should now work perfectly for us. So we compile, save, minimize, and let's hit play to test this out. So we'll walk over, go to the locker, press H, we'll get in, the door opens and closes as we get in, and we can move the camera around like so between these values which we set. So we can look up, right, left, down, between the values which we wanted. So this has worked perfectly. And press H and get back out again like so. And if I place multiple in, so I just hold down Alt, left click and drag to duplicate these, we can see that this works perfectly with all of them. Press H, we get in, and we can move around and get out again like so. Also, sorry, one thing, as I was doing the outro there, you may have noticed something went a bit odd. If I walk in here, we can look up and down, but we can't look left or right. Reason being, when we duplicated this code here, input axis turn, we left it as add controller pitch input when we should have changed it to add controller your input, like so. And now this should work perfectly for us. So I'll get back to the outro. If you notice that, this is why this is the fix for it. So if you see that in the outro, don't worry about it. And also make sure to plug the value into the axis value there, like so. So I think that'll be it for this video, which we've done everything we want to do. We set up a locker in which we can press H to get in and out of, and it hides the player, so we are actually hiding in there so the AI won't be able to see us as well. When we get in, out, once we're in it, we can move the camera around between values which we set as well, and we can use these as many times as we want on any rotation we want as well. So thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you found it helpful, and if you did, make sure to like and subscribe down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.